Now, the BBC has released how much they pay their top presenters, but it's all a lot of rubbish, really. It is a lot of rubbish.
It is.
We know, because we're in the business, we know how their pay is broken up, and a lot of them work for private companies, a lot of them get paid directly. This is the money they get paid directly from the BBC.
Absolutely. And, of course, Gary Lineker comes out top, doesn't he? We might as well have known that. He is allegedly on well over £1 million. Controversially, actually, Huw Edwards, who, of course, is suspended, received a £40,000 pay rise and continued to be paid his salary for almost a full year.
So all of this comes as the BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, has apologised for the ongoing Strictly scandal. He says the BBC will never tolerate unacceptable behaviour of any kind. Right, so let's now speak to the fantastic entertainment and royal reporter, Sarah-Louise Robertson. We say hello, good morning to you, Sarah-Louise.
Good morning to you, Aaron. Good morning to you, Anne. Lovely to be on with you today.
How outraged are you, Sarah-Louise, by the Strictly thing? I mean, actually, Anne and I were talking. We don't think people are outraged at all. I think people go, oh, really? Oh, I never thought those two get on. But people are not outraged, surely.
I don't think it's so much outrage. I think it's more dismay, actually, that all these celebrities who have had their chance and been able to go on the fantastic show that is Strictly, and at the time lapped it all up, and you would see them on Saturday night with their arms around their dance partner, hugging them like they're their best friend or husband and don't want to let them go. And then they all start running and complaining and saying, oh, I was bullied. Oh, I've been mistreated. They didn't say anything at the time. Well, in the case of Amanda Abbington, she did do so. But, you know, all these other people that are coming out of the woodwork now, all these years later, when they were so eager to take their check off the BBC and be on the show and have all the kudos of being on. I think people just think, well, look, it's a dance show, it's a competition. What do you expect? You are going to have to work hard. It is a tough thing. Dancing is hard work. You know, if you want to win, the dancers are going to push you to be the best. Obviously, in some cases, maybe the methods were unorthodox. I'm not saying I agree with them. No one obviously deserves to be hit. Absolutely not. That's disgraceful. And the person who's done that, you know, has gone, has left. But I don't think anybody really, on the whole, is overly shocked. What is a bitter pill, I think, for people to swallow is the licence fee payers. This matter of Huw Edwards' pay salary, Eamon and Anne. The fact that he got a £40,000 pay rise when he was effectively off air, we didn't see him. He was off air for over 8 months, and his pay went up to £480,000, and he was getting that right up until March of this year. I think that's the bit of a bitter pill to swallow to the BBC fee payers.
Has said, you know, I'm not going to discuss any one particular case like this. And anyway, officially and legally, Huw Edwards was off ill, really, wasn't he? And so in those circumstances, the BBC would be expected to pay his salary. I just wonder if we're all getting a bit upset over nothing.
Well, I think it's because what it is, it just seems like the BBC has been engulfed in these crises, as what they call them, and now it's like, does it face an existential threat? Is that what's happening now to the BBC? But they've overcome worse before. You know, they survived the Jimmy Savile crisis. They've survived what happened with the disgraceful shenanigans with Martin Bashir in order to get Diana's Panorama interview, and they have survived Huw Edwards, but obviously now it's come out about his fee. I think what is going on is that the BBC licence fee is in free fall. There is over 500,000 less people paying the licence fee this year than what there was last year. And if that continues, that's when we have a situation, because how on earth are they going to be able to attract top talent and be able to pay for the shows that they want to pay without the licence fee coming in? So that's where there's this fuzzy area, and where, you know, the BBC could be finding itself under threat in the future. And it also faces axing 500 jobs. So the people who are working on the bottom rungs of the ladder, the real workers, as opposed to the so-called talent of Lineker, if you want to call them talented, I don't know. Some people might. I personally don't. But, you know, those people who may be facing the thought of losing their job, they're the ones who are probably finding it quite hard to swallow that the likes of Huw Edwards was sat on the BBC gravy train for all this time.
Well, I know, I totally take what you're saying, Sarah-Louise, but I also would look at some of the names and say, OK, you try replacing Gary Lineker, you try replacing Huw Edwards, because I'll tell you this, the BBC have not replaced Huw Edwards on the news front at night, you know, with the 10 o'clock news and the 6 o'clock news and whatever. And it's not that easy to get people of this calibre. And what you find with ITV and the BBC in general, if you don't pay much money, you don't get much of a presenter, really, at the end of the day. And I think it's obvious over all the channels nowadays, TV companies don't like risk. They don't like people who step up. They don't like the Jeremy Kyles. They don't like the Piers Morgans, whatever. They hate any chance of a risk or anything going wrong, so they'll hire bland, dull people.
And people won't watch.
Well, you're right there, both of you. I suppose you do get what you pay for. You know, the likes of America, their talent attracts massive figures, and that's because they have that sense of competition. But we are where we are. I mean, it would be a shame to lose more talent. You know, I do think it's a fantastic institution, and it will come through this. It always does. It's the corporation. It's survived worse. It will get through it, but obviously there just will be more changes, and Strictly will be a much more, I don't know how to put it really. I mean, it's already a family-orientated show. Now it's going to be even softer because they've got these chaperones that are going to be in when they're on training. So people aren't going to push themselves. The dancers are going to be so frightened, you know, oh, sorry, did I tread on your toe there? You know, I must apologise. Did someone note that down? That was an accident, as we can see. So, you know, where do you draw the line? It's starting to become silly, really, and childish.
But also, Sarah-Louise, these figures and these people whose names are printed as getting so much money and whatever it is, this does not represent the business at all, because you will find that, and I know who they are on this list, they get half their salary from the BBC and half their salary will come from an independent company that hires them for different programmes. So they'll all be earning over $1 million.
Yeah, these are not the real figures at all.
They're not real figures at all. And then you never hear those two Egypts on Have I Got News for You? What are they called?
Paul and Hislop.
They're never mentioned in anything, and for 30 years or so they've been creaming it off the BBC, and because it's made by an independent company, nobody ever mentions them. Massive amounts of money
for every show.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just want to point out.
That being said, it's good, you see, and that was your point about Gary Lineker.
Yes.
If you pay big money, I mean, you are more likely to hold on to the really big talent.
Yes, yeah. But there we go. Sarah, we must talk again some other time. It's lovely having you on this morning. Thanks for having
thank you.
Thank you for having so much energy and analysis involved in all of that.
Did you ever flirt with the idea of going to America?
I've twice happened to be. Once I was offered in Canada the job of a weatherman.
Oh.
Yeah, I was offered that. And I just sort of thought of it, what is the point where your mother, your father would never see you on TV? What's the point of doing it if nobody knows you on it, you know? So I thought...
Big money, though, even for a weatherman.
I did, yeah, it was more than a weather job, but I said no, basically. And then I went and I did this quiz show for Fox TV.
Oh.
Yeah, they said, we want the Irish guy that does the lottery. I think they meant Dermot O'Leary or something. They ended up, they got me, and I couldn't believe it. And I went over to do a daytime version of this. And then 3 days into it, they changed everything and they said, this is so good, we're putting this out in the evening. And I remember phoning my wife and saying, we're going to have to move out to California.
Oh, wow.
They really want me here, and I'm going down. You know that street with all the palm trees and whatever? That's the way I was going to work, in this limo and whatever. And I had a bungalow there and a golf cart. It was absolutely incredible. Anyway, I'll cut this very long story short. So I'm working really, really bad. A lot of very ignorant people, it has to be said. And really have one regret in my life, that I didn't punch a guy when I was out there. I really would have, if I had my life to live again, I would have really satisfiedly been sacked for punching this git. But basically, anyway, they put the show out. One episode of the show went out and it came fourth in its rating. So it was behind Lost, it was behind The Biggest Loser, there was something else there.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, and it came fourth, and that was it. It disappeared. 36 shows or so disappeared. Disappeared, never to be shown again. No one, the only person ever replied to an email, me saying goodbye to them, was the lady in wardrobe. Nobody else. It was like you got a disease and no one wanted to catch it from
brutal.
you. That
brutal.
was it. Yeah. It was
so you look at these big American newscasters and big stars, and they are earning very big money, and they are usually, most of them, very, very good. But they're only hanging on in there by their nails, aren't they? Because things can be axed just like that.
Yeah. Funny, I love hearing that certain people have decided to give up their job or whatever it is, and you think nobody decides to give up their job. No. There's another story.
But ratings, everything.
I'll keep it for the next
daily
book.
ratings.
Yeah.